If it is possible. Got some technical issues I'm working out right now. This one probably isn't YouTube's fault. I think I set these lives up because I've been going live fishing so much. I've been setting these up on my camera, but really I needed this to be on the desktop for it to be the way I wanted to. Let's see. All right. Just going to mute the desktop. Hopefully the audio is all right. Hookset Sam, BFA, Stacy, Anthony J. Welcome in, guys. We're going to try to keep this thing rolling. I don't know if you guys saw, but I did a whole bunch of, I set up a bunch of lives, which I'll have to take down and redo because I did them the wrong way, I believe. But we're going to touch on different subjects each Tuesday night, 7 o'clock. I might move it back a little bit later. I'm not sure. You guys tell me what you think about the time, but hope everybody's doing good. Tonight we wanted to just chat about winter fishing. And I'm going to, like with all of these chats, they're going to be what I do, not an expert. Well, I'm supposed to be an expert, but I'm not telling you that I know better than anyone else. So I'm going to try to remember to word everything. This is what I do. So you don't have to follow it. But chime in, tell me what you guys do. And as a group, I'm sure we can educate a bunch of younger anglers. Anyone that was around for the first round of these broadcasts when we called it, what did we call that? I don't remember what we called it at this point, but we did a whole bunch last winter. And basically the goal is to teach new anglers. Not all anglers have family members or friends that brought them into fishing. So some of them are just like, you see them out there with the rods backwards and upside down. And, you know, those people need help desperately. We're trying to provide a forum that people can ask questions and not feel dumb. Tim, welcome in. Tim's another PA guy, and it's miserable weather here in Pennsylvania. So my wife's in the other room watching the basement flood and helping out with that. Judy Mae Collins, good evening. Good to see you. Awesome cooking channel. I know Anthony J's in. Member Stewart's here, another member. Appreciate you guys. Pre-retirement's here. Bulk, our first shark member. See, when I touch the screen, I'm going to have zooming issues all night long, which is, you know what I can do? I can multitask. I can use the desktop for chat. It's keeping up. All right, we'll do that. I'm getting better already. I missed DJ. I saw him up there and I forgot he was in. Welcome in, DJ. Good to see you, bud. So fishing in the winter, first thing I would discuss is you got to be comfortable out there. If you saw my thumbnail, I'm pretty comfortable in cold weather. That's kind of what I made a niche in bike racing for years, racing ultra endurance. I did a ride trail, events like that, 40, 50 below zero, outside for weeks on end. So that's kind of my forte. I'm very comfortable in the winter. Hey, there's Stephen Merchant. Welcome in. So I'll start out by saying you got to be comfortable out there. So clothing, and you hear everybody saying, there's Paul P&B Catfish, and welcome in, buddy. You hear everybody talk about like layers, but it's because it works. And you don't need fancy clothing. You don't need to go out and get ice fishing gear. And all the gear that I use, like I go to like Army, Navy shops like that. They're great. The important thing is this simple. Like if you really want to layer correctly, is breathing material next to your skin, right? Maybe a middle layer of material like a fleece, and then over top of that, wool. And these don't have to be thick layers, but like that is going to be like your go-to all the time. If you do that, you're going to be comfortable. And then some type of a shell over top, breathable shell that blocks wind, keeps you dry. Like you're golden with that. I have like a big onesie that you see me wear, and I can basically hop in that thing with like nothing on and be comfortable. I like that because it's one layer. I can hop on and go to work, but you don't need that if you don't have that. The layering technique is what I use, you know, in Alaska racing when I'm out there with no other sources of getting warm, just what's on your back. that's what I wear. But I don't want to get too crazy in this. Butterflies and sunshine, good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Who'd I miss? Aiden Loftus, welcome in, buddy. Good to see you. Hope you're doing good too. Another local guy. Aiden's another local guy, as is Butterflies. So yeah, even if you don't have the right clothes, a little bit of common sense. So in wintertime, fishing is, and this information is coming from Pennsylvania. So if you're in Florida, you're probably going to tell me like the bass are spawning. I'm not talking to you guys. This is Pennsylvania. Like if you're in this area, and some of it might hold true for different time of the year for other parts of the country and world. But I'm thinking Pennsylvania, our winters drop down to like 15 degrees to like 40 degrees, these Fahrenheit temperatures. Yeah, we do have a lot in the house. That's awesome. 15 people. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up while you're in. Hook said Sam. Good to see you, buddy. Keep it simple. Even if, like all these things, I'm going to tell you what to do. And half the things I don't always listen to. So, you know, if you're not dressed right, know that you're not dressed right. Be near your car. Fish, you know, maybe fish. And this is, honestly, this is a huge thing what I do in the winter. I'll go check out new spots that I've always wondered about, never really saw. And I might not need to catch anything. I'd be able to look at it and I'll know that spot's going to hold trout come spring or next summer, you know, or whatever the situation is. So it's just exploring, really. So I'll do a lot of those trips, and you might be able to tell that from our videos. Like Kevin and I might jump around on a day that's horrible weather. We might hit 15 spots. Just drive one spot to another, check them out, freeze your butt off, get soaked, hop back in the car, crank the heater, go to the next spot. That's another good way to do it. Safety tips, techniques. You know, if you're ice fishing, obviously, you know, go by your measurements on the ice and know that, you know, you need at least 4 inches, in my opinion, to ice fish. Hopefully the connection's all right. My signal does not look great, honestly. Hopefully it's not too bad on your end. Ice fishing, 4 inches of ice at least before you're walking on it. But know that ice doesn't, you know, freeze consistently. Anytime you're near the edges of the water, next time you've got, or anytime you've got like twigs, trees, things like that, people sense like, oh, I should walk near that. I'm going to be safer because there's a log over there. Nope, total opposite. It won't freeze as much in that area. You got springs, you got all kinds of things for inconsistent ice. So drill holes, you know, all over the place. Measure the hole, measure the thickness, and, you know, proceed to the next hole. Take some type of ice picks, because if you do fall through, you can't get yourself out too easily without the ice picks that allow you to get traction. There's Mission Discover. Nolan, welcome in, buddy. Good to see you. So yeah, and if you're not on ice or if you're on ice, either way, hypothermia is a real threat to the water. And it doesn't have to be 30-degree water. It has more to do with the difference between the water and the air. So if the difference between the water and the air is, say, 20 degrees, you could have 50-degree water on a 70-degree day, or a 50-degree water on an 80-degree day. You fall into it, you're in a serious jam if you can't get out of that water. You know, in the winter, the more, what makes it a little bit more dangerous in the winter is that when you get out of the water, it's almost the opposite. Like the water is cold, but the air could be colder. And you get out into that, it's really important that you're able to dry off quickly. In Alaska, for example, you can carry all your gear and stuff, but you're going to get wet. In fact, I've like walked through streams instead of putting my overboots on to stay dry. I will literally hike up my pants and at 40 below, walk through the water, but I'll have I'll have everything I need ready to go. So I'll cross the water and immediately like dry off immediately and throw dry layers on. And that's still not going to be enough. You're going to be cold. But I was like an athlete. So I would get up knowing this, dry off, and immediately start jogging in the deep snow. And for like a half an hour to get your blood going up. So you can't just get into a predicament. You have to get out there and experience nature step by step. You got to get out there and like get yourself into little jams, not jams that'll kill you. You do need to have some type of a knowledge before you go diving in and doing stupid things. But hypothermia is a major problem. So I really, carry dry clothes is another tip I would have. Ziploc bags. Expect that at some point, especially if you're not going to be near your car, expect at some point that you're going to take a swim. And what are you going to do? You're going to start a fire. How are you going to start a fire? You're going to put dry clothes on. These are all things I may not do, but I almost always carry stuff in case Kevin gets soaked, which he does all the time. So I always have stuff for him to climb into, like I have packable clothing, like a down that packs to like nothing that I used in Alaska. I know it's good and know it works great. I always carry that stuff at least because it takes up no room. Because I can strip Kevin down if I have to and throw him in that and he'll be good to go. Bud Files, welcome in. Who else we got here? If I missed you, I'm sorry. I'm on my phone and I'm using my desktop over there for the chat because my phone's acting up. We got a super chat. Somebody gave me some money here. Let me see who I got to thank. I don't know how I missed it. Stuart's got a flotation suit. Oh, Incredible Bulk. We got a super chat from Incredible Bulk. Thank you, sir. Coffee money. I got my coffee right here, buddy. Thank you so much for that. Appreciate it. All right, let's get down to the fish, right? Enough of the safety stuff. So the other thing, and again, this is Pennsylvania. So kind of like the catfish, especially the flatties, kind of shut off here. The bass shut off. Sunfish kind of shut off. Muskie are hard to catch. So I usually end up fishing a lot for the trout, pickerel, and yellow perch. So they're very, a fish that's actually active in the wintertime. So, wherever you're fishing, look for the species that are actually going to be active in the winter. Bud Files, I don't know if I said hi to you, but welcome in. So yeah, in wintertime, you can still catch large bass, and we do. And they're just going to be less active. They're not going to move as much. And same, even with the trout at this point, if you saw my last video that we put out, I think I spoke in there about, like, we had been fishing for wilds, we do it, we don't film everything, but we fish them pretty consistently, weekly at least. And they were chasing lures all up to about a week ago. And it was like the temperatures finally hit that mark where they no longer were chasing. Not even the trout were chasing. You kind of have to hit them. They were staying down deep, picking up nymphs, picking up worms. So in the winter, when they stop chasing lures, I really go to the jig heads, little tiny jigs. I use basically I'm using trout magnet jigs, something like that, with like a piece of worm on it, or a plastic worm, or anything like that to get it down in their face. Like same thing with bass, like you slow down the retrieve. They can, like the thing I learned last year is that people always think, oh, go small in the winter. I found like that's not really that important. They don't eat as much, but they will not pass up a big bait, like a big old worm or something like that. Just jigging it slowly along the bottom, you can still catch them. Walleye, yep. Walleye would be an awesome one. We don't have too many around here, but that's a great point, Judy May. They are in the area, and this is the time of year that you can catch them. I guess they're in the area all year. They're just really hard to catch most of the other time. They do spawn around here in May. I think that's like the optimum time to get it, but then they kind of disappear. Walleye don't like clear water conditions, so I guess, this time of year, we have a lot of overcast and early sunsets. So, flies, like nymphs and things like that are great, Stuart. And that's another point. Lakes, as you can see from my morning live, lakes always freeze up first around here anyway. So, the creeks you can hit while you're waiting for that ice to build to where you can walk on. You can go hit. Yeah, Aiden. We're going to go down for walleye down in Philly by the art museum under that. That's one of the spots we want to hit. He said the Schuylkill holds walleye. And Bud Files, if you're still in here, note the pronunciation, Schuylkill. We were discussing this. I think that's the proper way. Aiden Loftus can tell me if I'm wrong. He's a local. I think it's Schuylkill. I was giving Sue from Bud Files a hard time because her husband, they're from South Dakota, was talking about the Schuylkill River, and I was watching the video for a good 20 minutes before I realized that's what he was pronouncing. Yeah, right, Nolan? So yeah, Schuylkill's good. We just went fishing for a walleye. You probably never saw this video because we didn't catch squat, but we spent a whole day out on the Susquehanna fishing for them underneath the Safe Harbor Dam. So that's another spot, but the water was raging out there, and we just didn't have any luck. There's Sam from V8. Welcome in. Wow, Aiden, Aiden said one of his friends got one up by Norristown, which is way up the river, whole bunch of dams. That's pretty awesome. So we covered species, what species are active. Baits, I think I kind of touched on that. Anthony, right now, like there's not too much water in the basin. It's just dripping. It's going to get worse and worse over the next few hours. And then we have the wind coming in. We have like 50 to 70 mile an hour winds I saw in the forecast. So it's going to suck. We're surrounded by like 150-foot pine trees. It's not going to be a fun night. Yeah, Schuylkill. Baits. Again, like I said, I tend not to go with the spinning lures now. I start transitioning to jigs. So anything with a jig, whether it's like a worm, I'm moving it in that jig type, short falls, maybe 6 inches off the bottom. You're just not going to chase it out of the water column too much. There are exceptions, which I'll get to. The line, I tend to use lighter line. I use a light line all the time, like really light. But in winter, I make sure that I'm using really light line, even when I'm going for catfish or carp, especially bass too. I find that bass, I've had this experience multiple times where I've gone bass fishing in winter, and I'm really not bass fishing so much as trout fishing, and I'll throw a worm or a minnow out there, and I swear the line doesn't move, and I pick up the rod and there's a bass on there. And it's not good because a lot of times they've then taken it deep and you got to cut the hook out if you can't get it out cleanly. So I've learned to go really light on the line and really be subtle looking for those pickups. And it's funny, like you're fishing for a tiny trout. I'm looking for the same motion from like a 3-pound bass in the winter. It's that subtle. So I'm sure we're missing a ton of bites that you don't even know you have one. It's not like that like slam you get in the summer. It's like they just suck it in, and eventually, if they can, they spit it back out if you don't pull it. So like that, you want that sensitivity. Let's see who I have here. Karen C, welcome in. Awesome, new sub. That's awesome. Where are you from, if you don't mind? We're from Pennsylvania, as you see from my flag back there. But I also spent a lot of time in Alaska, so you might hear me talk about Alaska as much as I talk about Pennsylvania. But yeah, I always try to figure out where people are from so I can kind of give you, if I know anything about that area, I can kind of tell you what I know. And once I get through this list, then we're going to open it up a lot more for discussion, because I know you all know a whole lot of stuff, and you know a whole lot of stuff that I don't know. So we'll open it up for more of a discussion. Line, so I said I like to use lighter line in the winter than I do in the summer. And I also like to watch the line, because a lot of times and my fingers are cold too, right? So it's not only like they don't hit hard, you don't seem like you can't feel it as well. A lot of times you got the wind, you got the chop. So I'm watching, I'm feeling, but I'm really watching that line a lot for anything different. If you're in a creek, it's not always a hit. It's sometimes like a pause. And it could be a rock, it could be a cross current, but I've learned set the hook anytime it does that, because more times than not, or more times than you think, I should say, it's a fish. And it's nothing like me pulling up, thinking it's probably not a fish, and pulling up, and there be a fish, and that happened 1, 2, or 3 times. You start realizing how many fish you've missed over the years. So try it. Yeah, Anthony J is getting close to 500. That dude's doing a whole lot of fishing live, and he's got to be close to 500. So check out Anthony J if you don't got him yet. Um, yeah, Nolan. I guarantee you, Nolan knows more about technology when it comes to fishing than I do. So if he says something, listen to him more than me. He studies things a lot more. I kind of like, I'll just keep going. I learn stuff by making really bad mistakes, but I've made like I've made like 4 or 5 decades now bad mistakes. So I'm getting pretty good. Um, there's Keith Doc Reed, another Shark member. Welcome in, buddy. Good to see you. Hope you're doing good. 21 off of 500. That's all right. You can take some attention away. That's awesome. Awesome. So yeah, bait. I think I covered bait pretty good. Someone asked me, Chad, there's Chad Thomason. Welcome in, buddy. Another newer member to the channel. Glad to have you. Somebody asked me, I don't know if it was, I don't think it was Tim, was it? Somebody had asked me on the community tab about targeting browns in winter on lakes. And now around me, the browns tend to be holdovers on these lakes. But there's spots where they're in the creeks and they're wilds, and then there's creeks connect to lakes. What I will say on browns, in my experience in lakes, is they go to the creeks in the winter. Not all of them, but a good spot to try is anytime you have a creek coming into a lake, especially if you've got a little bit of ice on the lake where that water's flowing in. You've got food source for one. Two, they actually think they're going to spawn, whether they are or they're not. They have a natural tendency to head to that creek, just like they're coming out of like the ocean. They think they're like wild salmon. And they do it in the Great Lakes and stuff like that too. So check the creeks. They will come in the creek, and one day they'll be there, next day they won't be. So try it, often. High water seems to trigger them. You've probably seen that on some of my lives where I'm down in Lock Ash, where I tried to fish this morning and there was ice. Every time it flooded, those trout would be jumping like 20 feet out. So not only were they active and off the bottom, they were shallow and jumping. And I think that is due mainly, might be some food coming in, but mainly I think it's warmer water coming in. So it makes sense, like if it's raining and it's flooding, those edges don't have that 30 feet of cold water underneath them. It's all that rainwater, which in the summertime, rainwater drops the body of the water temp. But in the winter, it does the opposite, because you figure it's always like natural 55 degrees or whatever, approximately. So 55 degrees in winter is warm. So I think the creek water coming in is basically rainwater. So that would be my next thing. Temperature. Look for the warm spots in the lake. And like I said, I think the warm spots are going to be when the water comes in, where the water comes in, flood area, and any type of natural springs. So that's my tips on that. That's all I have prepared for winter fishing. So I want to hear. I want to hear you guys and like what you do, what your tips are, anything I missed that we can add to the conversation. At this point here, Nolan, I'm in my basement. It's hard to hear on this side of it, but I'm sure it's bad. At 8 o'clock, I'm going to end this at 8 o'clock sharp, because you don't want to see that in process. Us trying to keep our basement dry is like watching cavemen run around. Like there's a couple gaps where we have like towels and stuff, and then we got a vacuum that we do. It's pretty bad. Every Tuesday we're going to do this, and I picked a whole bunch of topics. And if you've got more topics you want me to cover, send me an email or a message, and I will certainly add them if I can. We're going to do knife sharpening in a couple weeks. Next week, I think we're going to do worms. And you might not think I've got 30 minutes of content on worms, but I assure you I do. Worm is like, if you had one bait to survive, worm would be my recommendation. And there's so many ways to fish a worm. There's so much to learn about a worm. It's going to be a good episode, I think. Knife sharpening. I forget what other subjects we picked, but most of them, if not all of them, came from you guys and the subs. So V8 says, when I was in PA, I never fished. Wish I knew people up there that did fish. I probably would have loved it. Yeah, Pennsylvania is a, some ways it's really tough to fish because, and this was something I wanted to talk to Stuart about. We were talking about, we're going to do a live together on one of these, and it's going to be fly fishing. We're going to compare how Stuart fly fishes in Scotland to how we fly fish here. First thing I thought of in Pennsylvania is you've got a lot of anglers. So the first thing comes to mind is like, oh, trout fishing with a fly rod. You go out there opening day with a fly rod in a lot of bodies of water. First of all, you're going to have a hard time finding a spot to cast. Secondly, somebody's going to give you a flat tire on the way out because they don't like you. And third, like you're fishing pressured fish, which I've always found is really hard to get them to take a fly to begin with. So basically you end up throwing something that you could throw easier on a spinning rod with like a spin bubble. So you'd be just fly fishing for the sake of saying you're fly fishing. But Pennsylvania is so diverse. Like we've got wild trout. We've got the catfish down in Philly that are like world class. I mean, they're, nice flatheads. We've got a lot of different species and a lot of water. We got so much water around here that I'm always hitting new spots, and it just keeps you going. I still haven't fished all the spots. And I've been fishing, I was born in Pennsylvania. I've been fishing these waters all my life, and I still find spots. Didn't even know that was there. So, and we got a lot of reservoirs because we got people. We got a lot of reservoirs, and most of them are open to fishing. So we got great access for the most part. We're losing a lot of access, which is another topic for another night. But we got a lot of access compared to a lot of other places around the country, I think. Chad, I know you were live earlier today. I missed you. Mondays and Tuesdays, I'm in the office, and my job's not pretty right now. I saw you pop up, and you were to do StreamYard today. Hope it went well. I wanted to bounce over there so bad, but no way I could. There's Russian Wind Mountain, another member of our channel. Awesome, welcome in. John's in, Small Water Charters, welcome in. He's back as a member, second time member. He can't get enough. Everybody requested different content areas for me to cover. John being John, he wanted me to cover the piranhas, how I fish for piranha. And John, you missed it. That's what I led the show with. We did some piranha fishing right off the bat, and I showed you how to catch them using ice fishing gear. So go back and watch that. Anthony said, I've caught more trout on bait and lures than flies. Yeah. There's times where, man, all you can catch them on is the flies. I find like with the stockies, if they survive the initial stocking, like 2-3 weeks in, the ones that are smartening up, they're like at nighttime, go there at sunset. Then it's like the only thing you can catch them on is flies sometimes. And then the browns come out at night too. And I've always done really good catching browns on the fly rod at stocked areas at night. Nike girl, another member, welcome in. Good to see you. Hope you're doing good. Day late, dollar short. John says, story of my life. Stu says StreamYard was amazing. Yeah, so I covered all the areas of winter fishing, John. And I did say, of course, in Florida, all the stuff that I said is out the window because it's like you're probably going into the bass spawn right now, where the bass here are like, they look like they're dying. They're just colorless, laying on the bottom. Down there, they're probably just tearing up the baits right now. Crappie fishing's probably on fire. But the crappie is another good winter fish up here. If you can find a lake with crappie, that's another good species to chase up here. They'll bite all winter long and through the ice. Anthony says, I'm doing good, Nike girl. I'm doing good. Hope you're doing good. Anthony says, "What's your favorite trout fin, and how big was your biggest?" Anthony, it's tough for me to keep Kevin and mine straight because it's always such a joint effort. Um, I think our best, and I don't know how big it was. It's not that long ago. Kevin caught a brown this fall, late fall, early winter. Um, we've caught bigger stockies, but this was a wild brown. It was big. I don't know, probably like 5 pounds, 4 pounds. But we caught it off the Lehigh River. It was just awesome fish. And for me, it's not always like the size, it's kind of like the experience. Like I've caught some big stocked rainbows and tournaments and stuff like that where they throw them in, they stock them. Um, but my favorite trout is a brook trout, a native brook trout. So in Pennsylvania, brook trout can be native, which means they belong here. Browns aren't native, even if they were born here, they're considered wilds. I don't want to go down into like the whole yuppie fishing, Orvis dude talk. But that's just like the reality. Most people agree on it. The can be wild, but only brookies can be native. And when you go out to a little tiny stream, like first of all, you're not going to catch a native brookie in a place that's not beautiful. Like it's just not going to happen. It's always the most beautiful, peaceful, moss covered, creek with like mountain laurel. You're like at any moment you could see a black bear come out. Like these are the places they live. So you're in the most beautiful place, and the colors are just unreal. And it's probably more about the like where they live than the actual fish. But it's hard. It's a hard answer, but I'm going to go with brook trout would be my favorite fish. Nora, the Stock Explorer, welcome in. She's another Pennsylvania dropout that went down there by John in Florida, but she's originally from this area. Good to see you, Nora. Who else we got? John said the water has to cool. Yeah, so winter, if we're talking winter fishing, it means things all over the place. In here, it kind of shuts things down. In Florida, where it's so warm that it actually cools the water down so that the bass can spawn. So, I mean, you're really you're not talking winter as in cold, you're talking a change in temperatures and what that triggers and what fish do differently and what fish become active. And don't start Stuart. Stuart catches, like he's caught whales. The trout that he catches over there are just ridiculous. His trout are like our carp over there in Scotland. He said, my biggest trout that I released was 12 to 14 pounds. Biggest he kept was 8 pounds, PB brown trout. Yep. I saw the one you caught live. That's insane. Nolan, I think that's only because of the efforts being made by some of the clubs then. Nolan says he's been catching some gangster ghetto brook trout down where he lives. So I don't know. You might be right. Instead of lovely places. And I'm not talking the stockies because you might have seen my short where I caught the stocked brook trout. And I forgot my stringer, so I found trash of plastic, and I had to make a stringer out of plastic. If that didn't say fishing in Norristown, I don't know what did. Let's see, make sure I didn't miss anything. Yeah, Tim, today's weather will make you drop out till spring for sure. Steven says, oh my gosh, chat's going too fast. Get back up there. Steven said, where I live, the stocked fish are not long enough in the water to get wet. Yeah, that's a lot here too, Steven. Like where they stock, for the most part, they get out of there so fast that it's a whole different technique to fish for them. But then they do some fall stockings, and some of those spots are really good. They'll hold over. And, if you have, in Pennsylvania, you get the trout book, I would open it up and read it front to back. Because all the special waters, special red waters tend to be the best ones for whatever reason. They just get less attention. They're harder to fish. The fish are spread out, but all those things are what make them last. But yeah, that's a big part here. you want to like learn how to catch trout, just figure out how to find the stocking schedule and follow the truck. But that's no fun because it's elbow to elbow. John Smolder Charter says our water gets in the high 90s in the summer. I can't imagine water in the high 90s. I mean, at that point, they're just probably fighting to survive and not even eating. It has to cool down to 75 for spawn and start. Yeah, Nolan said, generally spots are epic though. Yeah, Mission Discover, I think you should go catch those and relocate them. That's just sad for them. I'm depressed now thinking that I agree though, you're right. Civilization can create some weird phenomena in nature just between the drainages and ditches, and you can find fish in some pretty weird spots because of it. Let's see. Am I caught up? I'm using the chat on my screen so I don't mess. Every time I try to touch anything on my phone, the Zoom goes nuts. Anthony says, my PA was a Shasta Rainbow, 27 pounds on a large Castmaster, 8-pound test. Yeah, 14 years old. You should have just quit right then. I mean, that's epic. That's awesome, man. And that's insane. I know I missed somebody. J&J, hunting stuff and J&J, welcome in. I think that's who I missed. I saw Nora. Who else did I miss here? Butterflies and Sunshine. I saw you and said hi to you. Boxcar Jerry. Welcome in, Boxcar. Boxcar's back as well. He came in with John as a new member. So welcome in for another go around, right? Yeah, this might be another topic, and maybe Nolan can give me his feedback on this, but this is something Kevin's been talking about. Everybody seems to, and I hate even saying this because I don't want any area to get outfished, but there seems to be this mindset that natives and wilds are really hard to catch. And I don't buy it. I don't believe it. In some spots, like Valley Forge Park, they do get pretty smart because everybody fishes for them. But in my experience, especially browns, those things are starving to death. They're fighting, they're eating each other. I just find that in some ways they're easier to catch. And I'm going to say this because Kevin said it, and like I didn't want to admit it, but he's right. Especially it's empirical knowledge. Like we've tested this, and this is something that we've experienced to be true. Oftentimes, stocked trout are harder to catch than wilds and natives. So I'm just going to say that. I know it's probably not popular, but I find it to be true. Funny, my name is actually Jay. That's awesome. John said his actual name is Jay Anthony. That's funny. Let's see. Your nephew is upstairs. He might pop down. I told him he can pop down. I don't know if he'll come down and join the chat. What do we got going on this weekend? Not sure what the weather's doing, but every Tuesday night we're going to do a live. I'm going to try to do the Monday and Tuesday morning lives. I need to find a new venue to do those because the lake's frozen and it's probably not going to be frozen enough to ice fish in the next few weeks. Ray from Fishhead Videos, welcome in. Good to see you. You guys don't know Ray from Fishhead Videos. Check him out. He just donated a GoPro to Kevin, which is awesome. We've been wanting to get Kevin his own GoPro, especially for Stuart, because Stuart's always on my case because he wants Kevin to he wants to see Kevin fish. The problem is Kevin don't care about YouTube. He just wants to fish. He doesn't want to stop. Like I'll tell him wait, let me get the camera out. He don't care. He's just on to the next fish, and it's so hard to get content like that. So now that we got a camera for him coming, we're going to strap that thing on his chest. And at least when he's out on his own, you're going to see how many fish he catches when I'm not around. Might be grainy footage knowing him, but we'll find a cool way to add it into the videos. Nolan, that's cool, man. We're only going to be on another 15. I'm cutting this thing off. I'm going to try to keep these hours sharp. I want to make them so that they're actually watchable to go back and watch instead of watching 3-hour live with like 30 minutes of content. I'm going to keep them to 1 hour and try to like actually prepare stuff. So it might only, like tonight only took us 30 minutes to cover everything I wanted to cover. But that's because I want time for discussion. City clip. Yeah, Ray, that storm's coming up, buddy. I know it. I was talking to people at work today from South Carolina. It was there at like 2 o'clock and now it's here. So yeah, it's brutal. We're getting, they said that Cape May, New Jersey, which is like 2, maybe 3 hours from us, is supposed to get like 70-mile-an-hour winds. So I'm hoping we don't get that here because that would be disaster where I live. Yeah, Aiden, if I were you, right now is where I'd be out there. I mean, coming storm, those fish will be biting for sure. Go out there and catch one of those 4-inch natives, man. You'll be glad you went out. John, you know I'll be there Friday night. I'm always there Friday night. You know, your lives are, I very rarely miss one unless we're out fishing and I have to save batteries. I almost always have your live on. And eventually I turn the chat off and I put you on the big screen so I don't have to like sit there and mess with it. But then I can't chat. But yeah, John's got awesome Friday night lives. Not always kid friendly, but always a good time. They try to keep it pretty nice till 9 o'clock. And then at 9 o'clock, look out. Anthony J, this is a big conversation. This might blow a lot of people's minds, but the Iditarod race is run by not just dogs, but by runners, by skiers, and by bikers. So I've done it 3 times on bicycle, Specialized tire. And before, everyone thinks it's from the Serum race, but if you go back and you can read the book or watch the video, Wooden Wheels, bikers were actually the first ones to do the trail, and it goes back to the gold rush. So if you weren't rich and you couldn't afford a dog sled team, you went up there with whatever money you had and you got a bike and you pushed the bike. So at least you could hook all your gear onto the bike and you would push it check stop to check stop. So that's what we did. It's 1,000 miles from Anchorage out to Nome with a couple stops and cabins, but for the most part, you're camping on the trail. You know, whatever weather, blizzards, it's always like the last week in February, which is the most snows on the ground. They pick at that time of year because the lakes, the rivers, everything's solid, but you've got overflow, still a mess. But yeah, long story short, yes, I've done the Iditarod trail at least 3 times. And then there's other events just like it. International Falls, the Arrowhead, I've done 3, 4, 5 times maybe. That's only 135 miles, but the conditions are just as bad as Alaska, to be honest with you. It doesn't have the romantic appeal, but it's just as epic. Yeah, I actually have, like, if you look at my playlists, there's one playlist that says not fishing, and I think it's almost all pictures, but I put it together in a video that's not horrible to watch. It's so hard to get you're just trying not to die out there, so it's really hard to get any type of video. Plus, like, your cell phone is like your emergency contact, and you can only use it when you get to a town. So like you have to turn it off. You got to keep it against your skin so it doesn't like die in the 40 below 0 temps. But yeah. John wants, one of John's favorite things to discuss on his lives is how I know, and I'm good friends, and I'm not really good friends with him, but I know, and I've competed with one Lance Armstrong. That's my claim to fame. John loves pointing that out. I'm not a road biker. I'm a mountain biker. I'm not a roadie. I've ridden the road, but I never inhaled. I'm a mountain biker, and more than that, I'm an ultra endurance mountain biker. But that's what I used to do. I used to race 24-hour races and multiple day races, stage races. Racing up the Tour de France has no appeal. I honestly would rather win the Iditarod than the Tour de France, and I can't afford the drugs anyway, so never tried. John, yeah, I'll keep it PG. I'm not going to go any further on that one, but all right, I need this coffee in me, and this little travel mug lid is not working. All right, so Anthony J, I think I kind of want to figure out where you guys are from and what fish are biting in your area. Like, what do you fish for in the winter? I could be wrong. I want to say Anthony J is on the Tennessee River. I don't know. I could be totally wrong. Geography is confusing for me, especially when they go and name a river over another state. I sometimes get confused. But if that's true, or tell me where you fish, Anthony J. Tell me what fish are active, what fish you can catch in winter. And Stewart too. Like, I'm curious in Scotland. You know, I would imagine pike over there you can probably chase winter. Carp maybe. I don't know if they're active over there in winter. Yeah, you're on the Ohio, you're on the Tennessee. Like, so do you live in Ohio? Do you live in Tennessee? What's going on there? I'm gonna. Yeah. John's gonna suck me into a conversation that we would have on his channel. I'm not gonna go for it. Kentucky. So Kentucky's got the Ohio River and the Tennessee River. Okay. All right. There's Bogle. He's on the Delaware. We all know that. Welcome in, Chris. Good to see you there. Chris knows how to catch a brown trout. He's got some big browns over by him. Also 30 minutes from Mississippi River. Big game fish hunting nowadays. Nice. Yeah. John put out the bat signal, and Chris comes running in. Grayling are an awesome fish. So Arctic grayling, we used to catch in Alaska, but I just saw that they're trying to stock them again. I think around like Minnesota, Michigan area, they're trying to reintroduce those to some areas. They're an amazing fish, and they actually live like really old compared to like trout and other species too. Southern Wildfin, welcome in. Good to see you. How many people? We got 20 people in here. That's awesome. Thank you guys all coming in. Appreciate that. We're gonna, like, every Tuesday night, we're gonna hit a new segment, like piranha fishing for John. And I'm gonna come prepared. I'll do my homework, tell you what I know, and we'll probably cover everything in like 30 minutes. And then I'm gonna open it up for conversation because, like I said, I want to hear what you guys do. I mean, I'm just sharing. I'm not saying I'm an expert. You have to do what I'm doing. But I've fished a long time. I fished since I was a little kid. Fished a lot. Fished for a living, guided, have my guiding license. So I'm not dumb when it comes to it. I'm definitely not orthodox either. I don't like do everything by the book either. And I value, you know, on the water knowledge more than book knowledge. I feel like I read everything when I was little, and then I kind of proved 90% of it wrong as an adult. So I don't put a lot of faith in book strategies. I'm sure it's all right, but it's like not knowing how to like use it, when to use it. And, you know, the most important thing is that you go out and fish. If you want to be successful, is like you got to just tell yourself you have a good chance. And books sometimes can like tell you the time to fish, which means all the other times are not times to fish. And I can say I've caught probably 99% of my best fish in times that I probably wouldn't have fished because it wasn't the full moon or whatever, it wasn't the right cycle or something. Just throw the hook in the water enough times and you're going to get some epic, epic stuff. Beard tips, I actually could use some lotions. So I'm open for suggestions on beard balm. I'm open to sponsorships. I shaved yesterday, John. This is all today's. Let me see. I would use my top 12 last travel all the time. Yeah, Stuart's got a good point. Like I'm the same way. He said I use 12 to 15 patterns, the blast trout all the time. Everyone's got their like confidence baits. And like, that's so important to me is like when you don't have faith or you're fishing at a time where you don't think the fish are really going to bite, but you're like, I got nothing better to do. I want to go cast the line. I always put my confident baits on in that because I'm just going to cover water and go out there knowing like I know exactly how to retrieve this. I know what actions work with it. And you can kind of tell if you're going to catch something that day pretty early on, usually. But then other times I'll go out and try all new stuff just to work through a tackle box. And, like I said, the most important thing is to get out there and keep fishing and not put the tackle box away for the winter. James Westgate, what's going on? That's my high school buddy right there. Anyone that needs to know about carp and gutting carp that are dead for 3 weeks and why not to gut a carp or stab a knife into it like a dumb 16-year-old, you can ask James and he can tell you some stories about James and I when we were in high school. but James will tell you we've been fishing a long time. Not all the stories we can share on here, I guess, but John's, that's beard oil, catfish scented. Nice, 8 out of 10. That's good. You know what? I'm starting to get a couple grays hairs into it, so I'm not sure about that. It might have to go. I don't know. The bait I catch are size of trout. I use trout for bait as well. I use trout for bait sometimes, Anthony. Other times it's like I'm going to eat the trout. I'm all over the place as a multi-species angler. Doesn't bother me any. People make fun of it. I don't care. Like, whatever. I'll fish for whatever's biting. It's cool. James said I'll trade you some beard balm for some beard dye. Last year I ran out. I only shaved because I ran out of the beard balm. That's literally why I shaved. John, we were most definitely not in band camp. We were, James and I were basically not Dumb and Dumber, kind of Dumb and Dumber, but putts. I can't say the other word live, but what was the name of that movie? Grumpy Old Men. That was basically us. Like, and you got to understand, we went to Norristown High School, not some like backwoods place. Like we were like in the burbs for sure. And James, that dude came out of like a cornfield from like Iowa. I think he came from Iowa, moved to Norristown. And I remember him walking into middle school with like a cowboy hat on. And you don't wear a cowboy hat or like, I don't know if it was a cowboy hat, but definitely had boots on, like high boots. And I'm like, you don't do that. But of course he was like 6'4" in middle school. So he could do whatever he wanted. But yeah, we became friends and we fished almost every morning. We fished all the time before school. We'd meet up at the local creek, fish, and then go to school. Yeah, awesome. Good memories. Yeah, grumpy old man. Let's see. Yeah, grumpy old man. Awesome. That's one of my favorites. Favorite fishing videos, fishing movies. Grumpy. I still call any big catfish a catfish hunter. Like that I grew up like chasing catfish hunter. That was like, a potential dream of mine. Like I was fishing water just like they were trying to get catfish hunter, you know. Yeah, if you guys saw where I grew up, Norristown, Aiden knows, Nolan knows, but picture somebody coming out of Iowa with cowboy boots and strolling into East Norton Middle School. It's quite a sight. Well, going to wrap it up. It's just about 8 o'clock. Might go a couple more minutes, give it a clean hour. But as far as what's going on, we should have the video out. Last weekend, we were up in Dewshore, Pennsylvania. Kevin and I went fishing and ended up getting like a foot of snow up there. We did get on the fish before that happened. So we got some good catches. Cool video because we rented out this awesome cabin up there that's literally right on a pond surrounded by wild trout waters. So we had an awesome time. Yeah, thanks, Sam V8. Yeah, absolutely. Anthony J, guys, drop your links. If you're members, feel free to drop your links, connect to each other. If I was more responsible and tech savvy and thought I could do it without canceling the live, I would do it. But either that or I accidentally block people. Nothing goes right when I mess with this stuff, so I steer clear of it. Anthony J is at like 470s, close to 500. In YouTube, you need 500 subscribers and like 3,000 watch hours to hit that first level of monetization. And he's probably got the hours, or soon will be, because he's got a good crowd in his lives every day. So he really just needs to hit that 500 mark so that he can start. Not like any of us are getting rich, but man, it's sure nice when you can like pay for your first like pack of worms with money that people helped out. And people like to like help out, and it just makes it easier for them to help out because they can just, hit chat or whatever, super chat. It's just easier for you to get rewards and things like that. So, and mentally, it's a big pickup when somebody helps you out. So yeah, help out if you can. If you guys have ideas for future lives, don't hesitate to reach out. If you guys want to do like a StreamYard thing, Nolan probably went to get dinner, but he was the other one I was thinking of because he's a master knife sharpener. I thought he'd be cool to have on with me on the knife sharpening one. See if I can get him on. Like I said, fly fishing. I want to do one with Stuart comparing like the way I fly fish in America to like Scotland, because he's always on my case. Every time I go fishing, you see Stuart in my lives. He's always like, I throw a fly there. I'm like, get out of here. He's always wanting me to throw a fly. I'm like, nah, not today. Yeah. On the lives, I will do more StreamYards. I know it's a minimum hour-wise, so I try not to jump on there unless I really know I want to bring somebody up. Because I do try to prepare a live. I try to actually prepare the content because I'm all over the place mentally. I want to like at least have some type of agenda to look at so that it's somewhat useful. Because believe it or not, there are some younger anglers. Like Kevin's got a lot of friends that come into our lives and they're not allowed to chat. And I know they're looking for this type of information. So, unless you have parents that don't set parental controls, I think you have to be 13 before you're legally able to comment on videos. So yeah, Kevin hosting a show is not what you think it is. So you may not want to see that. Yeah, I'm going to head out. So I appreciate everybody coming in. I'm going to go see how flooded my basement is. We'll have a video out Friday. Don't know if we'll have any pop-up lives during the week. If Kevin wants to get out before school, I certainly will. But we got a flood out there right now. We got 3 to 5 inches, 50-mile-an-hour winds. So I'm trying not to just jump on for no reason. I'm trying to have some either content that I want to deliver or fishing. So, but if you guys want to see something, let me know. Otherwise, we'll see you on the water Friday video, and maybe some hunting coming up. Lyle wants to get out for rabbits and squirrels, and I'm trying to get my buddy out with us, and I want to do a collab doing that. But I can't throw his name out there yet. But peace out, guys. Have a good night. Thanks, Anthony. Oh yeah, I got to close that out on this. I'm trying to close it out on the laptop. I get done. Peace.